Welcome to the Secrets of Confident Women podcast, where you'll learn all the best tips, tricks, and practical techniques for building the confidence levels you've always wanted. With inspiring interviews, real-life examples, and game-changing insights, this podcast is for women who know that mastering the skill of confidence is one of the most important things they'll ever do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Secrets of Confident Women. My name is Jodie Bruce-Clark, and together with my business partner, Anastasia Adams, we run a business called Rise Women, which is a business dedicated to helping women learn practical, confidence-building techniques so that they can increase their confidence and do the amazing things they want to do in their lives. Now, we have had some incredible women on the podcast, and today is no exception. Today, I'm interviewing an incredible woman called Sheila V, who is a powerful psychic medium. But this wasn't always her life. At the age of 38, Sheila experienced her own life-changing sequence of events. She fell into serious depression triggered by a relationship breakup and breakdown at work after years of striving for perfection. Everything in her life had to crumble to make way for her new life, and it was during this period that she started speaking to the other side. She had an awakening. Now, Sheila has mastered the art of blending two diametrically opposite careers. She's a corporate leader as well as a spiritual teacher, medium, and psychic reader. She cultivated her skills in mediumship at the prestigious Arthur Findlay College in London, studied mindfulness at Esalen, and studied with world-renowned psychic medium James Van Praagh at the Omega Institute. Sheila knew she needed to change her life and dedicate herself to transforming people's thinking around spirituality, especially in the corporate world. It was time to help people discover their true purpose and build a more fulfilling life. Now she is the founder of Empowering Intuition and the author of the book, Brave, Courageously Living Your Truth, which comes out in May this year. Sheila V, we are thrilled to have you on the podcast today to talk about confidence, courage, and living an authentic life. So welcome to the Secrets of Confident Women.
Thank you, Jodie. It is such a pleasure to be here with you and your audience.
Yes, I'm so looking forward. We've met before, and then we were you sort of came through another group of friends that said, "Oh, you really need to interview this woman for your podcast." And I was like, "I've actually met her," so it was thrilling. It was like meant to be that you were supposed to be telling us your story.
I think it was synchronicity at its best.
It was.
That we've connected all those years ago. And then right now it's the perfect timing.
Yeah. And with your book coming out and all the great work you're doing in your Empowering Intuition business, we're just so thrilled to be able to hear a bit more about your story. And I think it'll be really inspiring and empowering for our listeners. Obviously, I've introduced you a little bit, but tell us a bit about yourself and your journey up to this point.
Yeah, Jodie, so I feel I led pretty much a standard life for, my 20s and 30s. I got raised in a Sri Lankan family where success was really important. I felt society meant I had to study really hard and climb the corporate ladder. And so, I became a chartered accountant. I got a scholarship to uni. I worked at big banks in London. I climbed the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
I did an MBA. And the whole time, Jodie, tick so many boxes on the outside. It looked like I was really successful. And I think in many cases, I feel I was I'm living a paradigm of success according to many other people's values and belief sets.
Yeah.
And as the years went on, I felt the dishonoring of myself in my body and in my heart and in my soul. And when I got to 38, I think the universe was looking at me saying, no, you're off track.
Yes.
Or it's time to take a right turn and start doing or stepping into a larger part of your purpose. So that's what happened to me. I had an awakening, a formal awakening, I call it, when I teach my students around 38, into my spiritual gifts. So, I now work as a medium and a psychic reader. I am an empowerment coach, and then my Dharma up to this point led me to write this book called Brave, because, you know, even though I was honoring, I felt like society and the values of my culture for so long, I was being pretty brave the whole way along, because I was taking little baby steps towards honoring my gifts. And my gifts were pronounced really early. When I was 12 years old, I had my first bout of depression and anxiety. And I think I was so sensitive. For anyone out there that had that experience at such a young age, for me it was a sign of my very psychic abilities, that I couldn't really be around conflict or around, you know, a chaos, or around, you know, too much. I had to live a very settled, calm life. And so these gifts were already presenting so young, and I just shut them down.
Absolutely. And so many people, I've met so many people, even in my coaching and things like that, that did what you sort of did, sort of tick, 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 did all the things that we were supposed to do, or that someone told us we were supposed to do, or the career. I coached a lady who, someone said to her, oh, you'd make a good, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that's how she fell into that career, from one person saying, you know, one person's opinion of where they thought she should go. But so many women find themselves doing other people's lives and find themselves off track.
I think it's really common, and this is no cliche, it's really common for women to self-sacrifice for a greater good of a partner or children or parents. And the conditioning begins so young in life. It happened for me, and it wasn't a product of my family. It was a product of society. You know, we're all microcosms of a greater macrocosm. And my own uniqueness, my own specialness, my own Dharma, my blueprint went out the door.
Yeah.
And, you know, as women, our intuition is our superpower. Our intuition is our guiding light. And these aren't motherhood statements. This is real, because I teach it now. And in my book, Brave, I describe something called the courageous path. And it's the pathway of making changes in your life to honor yourself.
Yes.
You know, and it is steps. It is managing the transition generally away from a conditioned way of living into an authentic way. And it's going to look messy.
Oh,
It may mean a divorce. It may mean separation. It might mean, I used to throw in my executive career. I got to the top of the corporate ladder as a finance director, as a CFO, and I'd spend a lot of money on an MBA. They're not cheap.
That's
and
right.
even I was looking in the mirror questioning, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah.
But this voice in me was just, yes, it is. It is time to make a big change in your life. And it's listening and honouring that voice, because sometimes that voice isn't rational and logical at all.
That's right. But it is always trying to sort of get you back on track. So sometimes we really have to stop. And in our busy lives, and when there is so much pressure, and it's interesting what you say, there's that perfectionism in you. You know, I think so many women struggle with that of, well, I've got to be at this level in my career, and I've got to do another MBA, and I've got to do this, and that perfectionism of striving, and then they get to where they're striving for, and then it's sort of like, oh, what am I doing here?
Yeah, I mean, we get lost. Yeah, we get lost and lost and lost, and before you know it, you're in the middle of the woods, lost, and with no light on.
Yeah.
And that's where there comes a trap, because I love this Joe Dispenza quote. I open my book with it. We become addicted to the life we don't even like.
Yes. Oh,
and
God.
It takes something to change the life. I had to get mentors and coaches, psychic counselling. I do a lot of psychic counselling where I literally I take women through a program where it's like, let's do a reading now and channel through wisdom from the higher planes and, higher self, right? The high wisdom. And then let's put in place an action plan to enact on it. Because there's no point having a session with a coach or a mentor where you feel good about what they're saying and then you go back into your life and not make changes. So I had people around me to guide me to actually start making big, bold changes in my life. And I made the changes so they were irreversible. I was like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to hand in the resignation letter. I'm going to speak it out loud.
That
I
is
can't go
brave.
back on this.
That is
it
brave.
was.
Yeah, but it takes something. You obviously got to the end of, I can't live like this any longer. Like I need to do something, and it is sometimes a big bold move, and sometimes it's smaller steps. As you said, I'm sure you work with clients that take those smaller steps, but they know where they're going. They've got to get out of and start pivoting towards being more authentic to who they are and what they want out of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, even some of the, we think are small steps, we look back years later and are big steps.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
I just got to go for it, haven't we, with sometimes?
Yeah, you just got to go for it. I just threw a website together about 5-6 years ago on Squarespace, and it felt small at the time. I thought I just got to put a website. But because of that, I could have clients in my business.
Yeah.
And I was doing my spiritual work part-time in addition to my corporate. So it doesn't, you know, people say, oh, putting a website may not be a big deal, but it might be the beginning of something massive.
Absolutely.
I now have a book out, you
know,
around Australia and New Zealand, because 5-6 years ago, I just said, yes, I'm going to work as a medium. I just said yes to the call of the universe. This is the assignment for you. And I said, okay, I'm up for it. And so I personally, while I take small and big steps and I guide my clients, I look back and some of the big ones aren't actually that big. You think, oh, this is really important. And some of the little ones actually completely redirect your life in a new way.
That's true. And what we talk about all the time is just be in action. Like just start, just move forward. Because as you say, you don't sort of know where sometimes big things turn into small things and small things, steps turn into big things. But you have to be in action. It's the constant thinking about it and not doing anything, not even taking any step toward it. That's where it's paralyzing. So, you know, just get into action for something small, and do something every day. So we love movement and being in action.
Movement and being in action. Yep.
Yeah. So what does confidence or being a confident woman really mean to you?
For me, confidence is about trusting your intuition to, you know, lead an authentic life. And Caroline Myss is a really great mystic. She wrote a great book called Sacred Contracts for any listeners looking to read some beautiful, you know, pretty spiritual but really amazing information around how to live an authentic life. She says, you know, accessing your intuition is the sign of a healed mind, and it's a sign of having great self-esteem. So, you know, once you listen to your intuition, you're valuing yourself over the louder voices around you outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And once you start listening to your intuition, it is a sign of feeling more healed and whole, being more healed and whole. We're always whole, but more healed in terms of our self-esteem. And then the byproduct of that is just confidence.
Yeah.
So, you know, quite often I will go to work looking $1 million. I had a reputation for looking great. I externally presented so well, wore my, you know, amazing, you know, corporate dresses.
Yeah.
I love heels. I think one of your questions at the end.
Yes,
I miss heels now being at home so much.
I think I could have guessed that though with you, because I have met you and you did look awesome. So.
Oh, bless. And so, you know, like I looked confident, but I wasn't.
Right.
So I think, you know, I believe looking is believing as well.
Yes.
But on some level I was fooling myself, and now I feel it in my own being, and confidence, you know, no one can take it from you. I think seeking confidence externally through,
accolades,
validation, or through external validation, or, you know, comments of appreciation, they're great. Nothing is like confidence from within.
No, that's right. And as you say, you know, you got to the job that you wanted and the MBA you did, and like all those were there. But if you still didn't feel that inner confidence yourself, you knew you were still somehow off track.
Yes, because, you know, and I write this in my book, so many answers to our great passions and dreams do lie in our childhood, teenage years, maybe our early 20s, where we still give ourselves the permission to dream. And I loved astrology books when I was 9 and 10 years old. And back when you all had old school print books and you borrowed books from the library, I was obsessed.
The old days.
Over astrology, the old days. I loved the psychic column in the paper.
Yeah.
You know, I come from a family where my dad's a retired doctor, so he's very logical and left brain, and my mother's a medium herself. She's a very psychic woman, and they had an arranged marriage, so they produced a child that was half intellectual, half intuitive. So, you know, in my childhood, my mother would speak to us about sort of mystical experiences, and she'd have premonitions and dreams herself. And so I grew up in a house where this was just normal, and I loved it. I loved those conversations. And then as I got older, I just realized if you talked about that stuff, people thought you were weird, or, you know, you may not be valued, or, you can't do that in the corporate world. It was just this,
yes.
this corporate world rule. And I just played into the rules. And so, as I got older, I thought there is a part of me that loves this stuff. And it never occurred to me you could love what you do for work. It just didn't occur to me. Yeah,
Isn't that
I thought you got to
interesting?
just be good. You got to be good and work hard. And I became an accountant, and I thought I'm just going to do this really well. And I learned to find a way to love it by bringing creativity. And I did an MBA, so it was very strategic. And I had a lot of conversations with people. So I found a way to create love around it. But it wasn't this genuine love.
Yeah.
And every day I wake up and I love what I do, and I love writing, and I love teaching spirituality.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, amazing. So your story is one of real transition and change, and really backing yourself to follow a path that wasn't necessarily encouraged. So throughout that, there must have been times that your confidence would have really suffered. So how did you maintain a belief or that confidence in yourself to enable you to keep moving forward, and as we were talking about before, taking those actions?
Yeah, so there definitely were many times where you look at your bank balance and you think, I've made the wrong decision because I've got no money or clients or, whatever experience they're having. So I recommend, even if it doesn't matter who you work with, you've got to find a mentor.
Yeah.
You've got to find a spiritual teacher, a soul mentor, an empowerment coach, a counselor, a healer, someone within that spectrum to help you to stop listening to the old voices and there need to be a new voice. So it's important when you pick a coach or a mentor to find someone who's aligned in your value set and who fundamentally has walked the path you're going to walk. So that's what I did. I found a spiritual teacher that had done types of tarot readings. She was coaching. And I found multiple mentors that literally I looked at them and I thought, you've got this skill or ability or this business that I'd love to have one day, or an element of it.
Yes.
And they literally started to open doors for me.
Great.
They picked me up when I was, depressed and crying and filled with insecurity, which is a really natural human experience. The thing is, they didn't let me stay down for too long.
No, that's right.
And they explain it's a natural part of the path.
Yeah.
Is, when you're transitioning, you're going to come up against limiting beliefs, self-sabotage patterns. I'm doing something new, so I had to have a beginner's mind again. I'd left the corporate world as a finance director in the top of my field, and I just started at what felt like the bottom of a ladder. And it wasn't, but I felt like I was a beginner again. And I had to bring beginner's mindset and curiosity, which it also involves a humble mindset, one of learning. And, that definitely took a bit of a tribe around me to support me. And then the other technique I used was, I have a meditation practice of a morning where I do come back to my center. And, if I start my day every day with my own truths and knowings, there's less of a chance of getting knocked over during the day.
Yes, yes.
It's a simple practice, but it's effective.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the mentors, we talk a lot about who you surround yourself with makes such a big impact on your life. So as you said, drawing those people in, and like what you did, which what we teach people to do, is like strategically get these people around you, like really make it important for them to be, who's influencing you. And it's that then, yes, you have these days, low days, limiting beliefs come in, fear takes over, all these sorts of things are normal. But those strong, incredible people around you, as you say, won't leave you there for too long or let you stay there for too long. They really help you to go, that's okay that you're thinking that, and that's okay that fears come up, and this is part of the game, but let's get back on track. Let's build you back up again and keep that moving forward.
Yep, definitely. And importantly, they're the new voices.
Yes.
Because if you don't have new voices with a new mantra, a new piece of motivation, a new inspiration, you'll go back to the old voice, which is you can't leave your marriage. What will you do without money? You've studied so long to get here. You can't make the change. You're too old. There's a lot of this too.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I'm in my 40s or 50s. It's like I've made my decisions. I just think if you've got a pulse and you're alive, you've got to feel alive.
That.
Life is long, and it's so common these days for us to have 2 or 3 relationships in our life, 2 or 3 careers, 2 or 3, ways of incarnating ourselves. And we don't allow ourselves to do that.
No.
and get a big tribe around you as well. Like, it's not one person, because everyone's got limitations. You know, when I mentor and coach women, I'm like, you've got to get multiple people around you, and they've got to step and wear different hats for you. And you've also got to bring in, not even mentors, just new. In my book, I write about it, like the different types of soul tribes. You've got to lean into new communities. So if you're going to, you know, I interviewed a lady called Melinda who runs for Fertility for Yoga, right? So she'd run yoga sessions all based around women that were struggling with infertility or finding it hard to get pregnant. And she'd run these like meditation sessions outside of the yoga. And there's a group of women in a room that all have the same problem where they can't conceive. And it's such a private journey, such a painful journey, that of fertility or infertility or whatever question mark. And she shared the story of how held these women felt by other women.
Yes,
it's like they got to cry about this painful experience where they didn't feel they could do that back out in their community.
No, that's
so you've
right.
got to find a tribe around you going through the exact same thing that you're experiencing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Awesome. Now, you say that you had to break through all of your limiting beliefs to live an authentic life. So what beliefs were holding you back, and what did you do to get past them?
I had a belief that that success meant having a corporate role and having a very senior job title.
Right.
And so that belief was...
Many women have that.
Many women do, and that would equal happiness. The belief is that success looking that way equals happiness, and it can't look another way, and you're not allowed to explore another way. You know, I could always go back to the corporate world if I took 2 or 3 years out to explore it. But even that was a limiting belief. You can't take a break.
Yes.
You know, to sail around the world, or to, you know, just take a break to deeply enjoy motherhood because there's too much of a cost. So having success and taking a break from it was a big limiting belief. You know, I've had a limiting belief even just about being single. So it's, you know, society, and I think it's Western and Eastern society. Eastern, you know, has the concept of arranged marriage, which my parents had. So I had a culture that's strongly embedded in marriage as being a foundation for your life,
yes,
not even
like
being
a necessity.
Well, it's a necessity of validation. So I would go to a lot of parties in my 20s and 30s, and I would already on the way there feel invalidated about my status as a single woman, and how that's walking into the party without the +1, that I'm not enough. Yeah. And, you know, I think that's why I've stayed in relationships longer than I needed to, because the thought of staying was better than the thought of leaving.
Yes.
And that was a limiting belief, because that was a limiting belief that really hampered my life, because when you're in the wrong relationship, it impacted me and my purpose. So my job was making me ill, and my job was making me tired. And then I had relationships that I really worked hard at, that I don't think relationships need to be that hard work.
Yeah.
And so I was choosing people that I wasn't compatible with, and could have just dated and not committed to out of a fear of being single. And finally, there was a real fear around really honouring my spiritual nature, because I had a belief that if I showed people this weird and wacky part of me, and it doesn't have to be spirituality for any of our listeners. You know, you might be into trapeze dancing or pole dancing or some sort of self-expression,
yes,
you know, some sort of turning up in the world as an artist, or as having, you know, singing or finding your voice, whatever it might be, that you're not allowed to do that, or I couldn't stand out in any way, stand out from the crowd, or even stand out and honour my own gift. And there was a limiting belief that I'd be laughed at, or I'd be judged, or it would invalidate my success.
Oh, I know. And I think there's so many points there. I find it sort of funny and reassuring that so many of us have the same limiting beliefs. Like,
I know. It's highly common when I see you.
Yeah, I've said to clients, look, darling, you're really very similar to every other person I'm coaching at the moment.
Yeah.
But they're sort of like, we all get sort of stuck in this like vortex of like, oh my God, I'm going down the tube of the limiting beliefs. But we're all suffering the same. I mean, there's so many women that I'm sure have, you know, bought into that limiting belief around not being able to take time off to enjoy motherhood. I've got to get back into the corporate career. Things will go too fast. I'll miss out on promotion. You know, and then it just doesn't equal, as you say, the success at the end or their happiness in life. They just feel like they have to do what the society is sort of telling them to do, or, you know, must stay in this relationship, must get married, must, all these musts, but they put so much pressure on us forcing life to look a certain way when really there's other things for us to explore. If we try to really look at those limiting beliefs, all those beliefs that we've got, to go, you know, and I think, as you're saying, find people who aren't living in that world and learn the skills from learn what they did. Well, how did they take, you know, 3 years off to enjoy the early parts of motherhood, and how did they do this, and how, you know, learn, because it is that learning from each other.
Absolutely. And you know, the 2 points I want to make around that. The first is, you know, the flavor of the limiting beliefs might be a little different. So I'm a brown woman that sat at a C-suite as a finance director, a male-dominated industry, right? And you might have a different story, but fundamentally at the root of the limiting belief is shame. And that's why Brené Brown's TED Talk is one of the most watched TED Talks, because shame is a very universal experience for men and women, and it's the road leads to shame. And we either want to avoid feeling shameful at all costs, or when we feel shame, we want to hide. And it's the lowest vibration emotion measured, you know, scientifically, that of shame. And it feels as close to death as you can get if you're really in an experience of shame. So that's the reason why, you know, I feel like, you need to find a soul tribe around you that's going to, you know, honor the shame you might feel, but to take you out of it quite quickly. And the second point I make in my book, and I talk about the path being the courageous path. You know, when we finally leave the big corporate job and and take the motherhood role, or take maybe starting a side hustle, we think, oh wow, I've made this big leap, I've honored myself, now it's easy. And I talk about it's not easy. No. Because we think when we honor our purpose, or we transition away from something that we feel out of integrity with towards something we're more in alignment with, it's easy. No, and that's where we create a fantasy. We create this other fantasy life that all my problems will go away.
Yes,
well, we still take ourselves there. So I had to realize when I left the corporate world and went to write a book and step up and empower women, I still had my own shadow to deal with, my own insecurities. And so the road doesn't sort of become easier but I will say it becomes meaningful.
Yes.
And we opened this chat about synchronicity. I've had so much synchronicity and signs from the universe guiding me that I don't feel off. I feel aligned constantly. For me, it's just about following the signs, receiving them, acknowledging them, following them.
Yeah. In our actually what's been coming up in our online confidence course, and then we have a private Facebook group attached to that. And I posted something the other day, an image earlier this year, that was made such a big impact. Everyone was talking, everyone was sharing in there. But it was an image about how to choose your hard. And it was like, you know, it said something like, being fit is hard, being unfit is hard, but choose the hard. You know, being in a marriage is hard. Being divorced is hard. Choose your hard, you know. So we went through a whole lot of, like, your experiencing, you know, having a regular income and being in a corporate job is hard. Running your own business and doing that and following your purpose is also hard, but you got to choose the hard. They're both got those hard elements to it. Yeah. But then it's, you know, it's, as you say, it's never just because this is my path, this is my purpose, that it's going to be laid out magically in front of you. It's still hard, but you want to be on the hard path that you love, you know, that means something.
Yeah, the one that's authentic to you. I mean, and I think people think transitions are literally breaking off one thing and stepping into another. I was a CFO in a publishing house, and at the same time I was doing that director role, I was also on psychic TV, doing psychic readings on live television, and I didn't know how to do both. They were both quite visible roles and involved a lot of energy and some investment of my time. And I thought, well, I still love this director role, and I still am transitioning into this new spiritual space, and I want to do both.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, and it was challenging because I had to, you know, leave on a Friday, sometimes the end of month, the close out, you know, it'd be long hours, and then I'd go have dinner and go straight to the studio and record through the night. I thought, this is crazy, but I was powerfully choosing to turn up, and then when that stopped serving me, I left. But I just, the whole time along, the courageous path I write about, if you're constantly honoring yourself, you're going to keep on pivoting in the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, such great info. I'm sure there's so many women that will be connecting with this because, as I said, we all have many of the different beliefs come up to challenge us on our path, and those paths change throughout our 20s and 30s and motherhood and marriage and all these different things that we face, and leaving corporate careers and trying to set up businesses and trying to find all these sorts of things create new challenges for us to realise. Oh, such great information. So what is something that you failed at that now in hindsight you're glad you did not achieve?
Gosh, I've failed so many times. So many. And I love, failing is like, I even teach it to my students, like if you're failing, and there's different types of failing. If you're failing, it means you're living more outside the comfort zone than in, which is fantastic, and you're growing.
Yeah.
And there's a really good chance you're going to reach your goals.
Yeah.
You know, my manuscript got rejected 3 times before I got it published, and the publisher that ended up publishing me said, look, the writing needs to be stronger. You've got to go back and do a rework. So I sat down for 3 months during COVID and rewrote the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I locked myself away and I used that time during COVID to write. And, you know, I could have been dejected because I'd already put in a year's worth of work. And there's a chapter in my book where I've got a good friend who her second manuscript got rejected. And it was because of that rejection she went on to write an incredible second book, and she's now published 4 books. She's a beautiful fiction writer.
Yeah.
And, you know, rejection and failure are just the best teachers in life. My book opens with a scene from the best-selling book, 50 Shades of Grey. So I was working at Random House when that book was running hot, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Sold 120 million copies worldwide. And the opening scene in my book talks about how I was there having to make a decision around how much stock we needed to order. And I was like the head of the analytical team. And I was there with a small group of directors. And, you know, I felt, whether it's reality or not, the whole decision was on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And I came up with a number, and, you know, I was talking with the sales director and some other people at the time thinking, what do you think? And we're all kind of, you know, umming and ahhing. And I think I just said, look, I think this is the number. And so it was a sizable, significant, massive number.
Yeah, a lot of investment.
A lot of investment, and we shipped that. Got the ship straight onto the ship over in America to sail to Sydney port, which takes 2 months to turn around.
Oh, my
and at
goodness.
this point, Big W and Kmart and Target was selling so many copies. Every bookshop was selling copies.
Yeah.
And literally the week later, I made that decision. The sale stopped dead.
Wow.
And it was the biggest error globally made on
Oh,
stock.
my goodness.
And I was behind it. And that set off for me a trajectory of, because I was a perfectionist. I was one of the high performing staff in that company, and, you know, I was really, really honoured for who I was. And it was like a part of me thought, I can't make a mistake like that.
Yes, right.
But in doing that, it set off my whole life and career on a new path, because I left that company. I ended up having to really look at my shadow side, which is, why am I a perfectionist? And I was suffering from anxiety, ill health, depression. You know, like I was a workaholic. I worked 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And I had to look at myself and go, is that really working for you? And the universe set up this whole experience so that I could look at myself. It was really perfect in the end.
Yeah. It's such a great perspective, isn't it? Finding that perspective on, at the time, the failure feels so big and so dramatic and so terrible, but really wish we could get hindsight before hindsight actually comes. But yeah, it's that perspective that you can see this, you know, all these failures are heading us back onto the right path, or helping us learn something that we need to know further down the track. But we can't always see that at the time. We've just got to try to trust in, this is for me, this is all working for me.
Oh, absolutely. I live my life now. Well, every time I'm taught something during a day or a week or a month, I stop and I say, what am I being taught? So if a challenge comes up, I'm human. I still go into the emotion of it. But now I have enough tools that I stop and, what is the lesson here?
Yes.
How can I grow past it? Okay, what about myself am I being shown that doesn't work? Yeah. What behavior or trait am I experiencing within myself that I need to look at? I do go into a pretty good line of questioning, and then I use journal writing or some sort of silence to come back to an answer, because we're in human school. This is Earth School.
Absolutely.
Right? And I do, and I'm lucky I'm a medium. I get to speak to the other side if you subscribe to that notion. And I get to channel through pretty beautiful wisdom. And we are here to learn. As souls, we're here to learn and grow. And if we can just learn and grow, then you'll evolve.
Yeah.
Life will become sweeter.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a great tool that you've just explained to really have that set of questions that you're consistently using. And because otherwise, I call it going down the rabbit hole. You start letting the negative conversation start and you just go down and down and down. Like, you have to stop and then bring those questions to the forefront and journal or write them down or, work with a mentor or a coach or someone to really stop that negative conversation going to a place that can just go on forever. Like I always say, there's never light at the end of this dark tunnel. The further you go down, the harder it is to get back up again. But it's really that, as you say, those tools that you've brought in to bring yourself to go, right, I'm going to stop and I'm going to find the lesson. I'm going to find the learning. I'm going to find what do I need to look at? How can I grow here? How can I do more? Learn more, be more. How can I use this experience to make a positive impact on my life? And that set of questions is like so powerful for you to just really stop and take stock of where you are and really consciously move yourself forward into a positive mindset again.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that, also perhaps think, and I do this too, that voice is not the voice of my soul. There's a good chance it's a conditioned voice, a voice of a father or a mother, authority figure growing up, a teacher or an older sibling. It's not your voice. And I know I was crueler to myself than I was to anyone else. I was unkind.
I know, we all are.
And we all, I wouldn't say the things to someone else that I would speak to myself. And I've just stopped doing that. I just stopped. It took a while, but I had enough people around me going, you're cruel to yourself. And now I ask myself kind of questions that allow me just to go, okay, I need to dig deep here and answer them in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Now, through your work as a mentor and executive coach, you must work with many women who are facing challenges in their life. But what reoccurring themes do you see coming up for women in the corporate world?
So the most common theme is burnout.
Yes.
Tired women do not awaken to their purpose or their greater destiny or calling. And so, I personally burnt myself out. Then I use my burnout as an excuse not to do my calling. So there's two ways it manifests. And the first thing I do is to teach how we get our energy and our vitality back. And then we go into what's your purpose. Because by the time people come to me, they want to work with their purpose. But there's not the readiness or even the availability to use their intuition, and they're drained. So we've got to actually, or they're caught in a drama cycle. So if you're caught in that, it doesn't matter how much you know about your purpose, you'll never be able to step into it through action.
Yeah.
So burnout is really common. Self-sacrifice is really common.
Yeah.
Whether you're self-sacrificing at home, and you don't tend to self-sacrifice at home and then come to work and be different. You'll self-sacrifice everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think it's giving away your energy and your power, I find is common. I find perfectionism really common. And perfectionism can look in so many different ways, and there is a spectrum of perfectionism. The thing is, if you're climbing some sort of corporate ladder, you're skilled. You might be an A-type personality. I know I was. And the challenge I find with perfectionism, and I found this myself, is it's something society rewards you for. So you get bonuses and promotions and sparkly titles. So it's one of those addictions. It's very hard to come off because everything that is working against for you, society values and gives you more validation. So why would you stop being this thing that you're actually benefiting from in some level? And I only overcame my perfectionism when I realized the cost was so great. So I had been burnt out. I was still single and was, desperately looking for love. I'd found I didn't have deep connections through friends. I'd get to the weekend tired and stopped having a social life. Like over years, decades, you wake up one day and you think, there's got to be a different way to live.
Yeah.
The thing then is perfectionism has really taken a long toll on you.
Yes.
So I find, they're probably the common. And the last one is, women not honouring their spiritual nature. So my last few roles, I had crystals, big chunky crystals on my desk.
Oh,
because I'm
great.
sensitive to energy, and I had a big, beautiful piece of black obsidian on my desk. So I thought, this is great for my energy.
Yeah.
And all my little spiritual trinkets and whatever it might be, a bit of artistic self-expression.
Yeah.
I feel women don't honour their spiritual nature.
Yeah. It's always the last thing. It's like the last on the list that probably we never get to, isn't it? Because it's just It's the last. It's like when I get time, I'll get to that. Yeah. But bringing that in to be part of your life, so you feel that balanced and feel that there are some bits of self-expression in your life as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's the self-love piece. You know, self-love is self-knowledge, and when you know yourself, you'll learn how to honour yourself.
Yeah,
I don't believe self-love is Epsom salt baths and beautiful chocolate. It might be, but because I used to go towards that as a self-love piece. If you don't know yourself, you'll still dishonour yourself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a little light touch on self-love. Self-love is truly honouring yourself.
Yes, you're right.
You know,
Beautiful.
It's really knowing who you are.
Yeah. And having the courage to step into that and do it.
The outcome might be a box of chocolates and a massage.
Yes, exactly.
But we got to get there through that route of self-knowledge.
Now, speaking of courage, you call yourself a courageous warrior woman, which I just love. What does that mean to you in your life? And what would you say to a woman who is struggling to find her own courage?
You know, for me, the courageous warrior woman, you know, it speaks to courage and the spiritual nature of a woman and being true to yourself. It's being true to be who you want to be in the world. So for me, the path is to hear the call and the yearning for change. So, you know, we might have led a life for a long time that honoured us. It might be the marriage or the career or even a business you started up years ago. And at some point, maybe it's time for that to change, how that's showing up in your life.
Yeah.
And there's a yearning for change. And the courageous warrior woman stepped into the path of change and transition. And, you know, so many of us, and I know me, I stayed stuck because I did not know how to change. And I knew the cost would be great. I knew something would have to die, a death of myself, the death of my attachments, the egoic death, the death of everything familiar and safe.
Yeah.
And a courageous warrior woman is okay with that. It's like, I'm okay to lose everything that's familiar and safe and to honour myself and to walk forward. And it may be alone, because quite often I would take the first few steps forward in whatever transition I was doing pretty much alone, definitely with a mentor, but fundamentally I had to take the steps. It's like a child learning to walk.
Yeah.
Mother can stand there with outstretched arms like a mentor, but the child's got to walk. The child has to step up and walk, right?
Yeah.
The courageous warrior woman has to take the steps and know she'll be caught if she falls.
Yeah.
But trust, because you don't know. And the warrior woman, I believe, is a woman who comes home to herself and her intuitive nature.
So what's next for you, Sheila? You've got a book in May, which is launching, and I bet there's a lot happening around that. But what's the next thing for you? It's
funny. I'm speaking to my publishers in a couple of weeks about the next book, even though this one's just about to be birthed.
Oh my God, I know. As soon as I launched a book, I said to you before we started, you wait. Everyone starts asking about your next book as soon as you've got the first one out.
So truthfully, look, properly birthing this one into the market, you know, and into the hands of women that need it. I wrote this book because I needed this book 5-10 years ago. I wish this book had been on the bookshelves to go, you can do it, you know, you got this. And I read so many other books from many spiritual teachers that did carry me along the wave I was riding. And this book is very tailored to the path I walked.
Yes.
You know, one of leaving behind an old life and stepping powerfully into a new one. So I'm, you know, praying and hoping and setting strong intentions that it finds every woman that needs to read this book. And then definitely more creative projects of writing, you know, expanding my coaching program to help more women, you know, like running larger groups and running a retreat in July.
Oh,
so just
fabulous.
More projects. More projects.
Staying on the path and just staying in action.
Staying on the path. Very much so.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to read your book in May, so I'll definitely be looking for that in the bookstores and hear more about that story. And I think every woman will get that encouragement of finding your truth, being more authentic. Like there's not a woman on earth that wouldn't get benefit out of that. So I'm sure it'll be a winning success for you. So now we're on to the Rise Women final power questions, which we ask all of our guests, which are our short sort of quick answers that we get a little bit more insight into you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
What do you wish every woman knew?
Very basically, I wish every woman knew how to access and listen and honour their intuition.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, that's great. Oh my gosh, wouldn't the world be a different place if that was the case? What is your superpower, Sheila?
You know, I've got a few.
Oh, good.
I do speak to the dead, so, you know, the deceased souls. So I feel like that's a superpower.
We'd tick that off as a superpower, that's right.
Yeah, my real superpower is I awaken women and men, a lot of women, to their superpowers.
Awesome.
So I awaken I've woken so many women to their innate, psychic, intuitive, all-knowing power themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So awesome, lovely. And you've already answered this, but we'll ask it for sake of asking. Heels or flats?
Definitely heels. Heels all the way.
Heels all the way. Good job. Now, your favourite quote or rule to live by?
Well, in my book, I've got a quote nearly in every chapter. So I love quotes.
Yeah,
I love inspiration because most of the time they're channeled. They've got such a vibration. So I've opened my book and there's one. I've loved Joseph Campbell's writing for so many years when I was young. When I was very young, I came across his book and I couldn't believe it. And he wrote, "We must be willing to rid ourselves of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us."
Oh, lovely. I love that.
Yeah, he wrote The Hero's Journey, you know, and we're the heroines of our life. We really are.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. Who inspires you and why?
You know, I find I'm inspired by so many people. And so this is a little bit of a different answer. I delight in spending time with my niece and nephew. I've got 5. And they inspire me by their presence and how much they play.
I know.
Because they play with such abandonment and they're so in their bodies.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way I want to be more in life. So that's who inspires me.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that. Actually, I was watching something. I've got, even when I'm preparing for sending information to a client to do one of our mindset sessions, I've got a link to a Facebook video on that says, you know, to prepare for this, drink more water and get a pad and pen and, you know, make sure you're in a quiet place. And before we start, watch this clip. And it's of this little boy who's just laughing. He's probably like 2 or 3. And the lady's, you know, he's in a percussion thing and then the lady's doing something and he's laughing. But it's like that childish giggle. And he's in a room full of people and he just doesn't care. And it's so, you cannot not smile and laugh watching this. You can't watch it and not change your mood. It's so, because those, as you say, those kids are just with that, they can laugh and be self-expressed and really playful and show everything without having all these, what people thinking and all these sort of other things that we seem to collect as adults. and then work really hard at dropping all the stuff we've collected. So I love that. I love kids are so inspiring to be around. Okay, last one is finish this sentence. If I had even more confidence than I do now, I would.
You know, I'd probably speak to bigger audiences, and you know that would be it. It's funny, when I saw that, I thought, I'm okay with where I am now.
Great,
so I think that for me, there's a level of acceptance and knowing that there's a bigger version of me to step into. And my experience has been initiations that have got me there the whole way.
Yeah. So when the time is right, the big audience will appear.
Yeah, I have a knowing about that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sheila, thank you so much for your insight. Thank you so much for coming along and spending time with us today. I'm sure there are so many themes in there. There is so much about learning from your journey and your courage and your bravery and your confidence that will inspire so many of our women out there who are listening. So we really appreciate you sharing your story and we can't wait for your book to come out.
Thank you, Jodie. It's been awesome being on this show with you. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And thank you to everyone for listening today. And remember, there are so many ways that we can help you become the confident woman you've always wanted to be. So please get in touch or visit us at risewomen.com. We want to ensure that confidence is every woman's new normal, and we do that by getting our programs and resources out to as many women as possible. So until next time, remember, with confidence, anything is possible. Bye-bye for now.